Did you know that this thing is completely made out of plastic? I mean, look at it. For the first part of this video, what actually makes these cloths so special? Well, microfiber cloths are primarily made out of two main ingredients, with the first one being polyester, and this is basically for the purpose of holding the entire cloth together, and the other ingredient being polyamide, and the purpose of this is to be a super absorbent material which would make it draw in water. And in this cloth, there are literally millions of tiny fibers in here that are 1/6 the width of a human hair. It's all intertwined and threaded all amongst this cloth. And with all these little bits of fabric rubbing against one another, it creates this kind of static electricity charge, which is why microfiber cloths always just feel a little bit icky to touch. This is actually done purposely by design, because with a slightly positive static electricity charge, it actually acts as the chemical version of a magnet for grease stains, which actually have a bit of a slight negative charge to them. So it actually attracts them through a very slight but minor electromagnetic force. And that's only half the magic of this cloth, with the other half being is that this cloth is super absorbent for water as well. And then depending on the quality of the brand that you use, it can hold multiples of weight of water than what the cloth actually weighs itself. Whereas a normal old t-shirt might only be able to hold 2 or 3 times its own weight in water. A microfiber cloth can sometimes hold up to 10 times its weight in water, making it far more absorbent and far better at holding onto those grease stains that you've just wiped off with it. And so with the static electrical charge, and also with the super absorbency of the cloth, I like to think of this as a particle vacuum cleaner, whereas I'd think of an old t-shirt or an old rag or a normal towel as a particle broom. And so whilst traditional cleaning rags are great for pushing mess away, this microfiber cloths actually suck the materials into it. And I appreciate that some of you out there are probably just thinking that I'm just a sucker for fancy marketing buzzwords that use scientific names. I mean, if someone were to come up to me right now and say, "Hey Dave, do you want this dark matter quantum physics rag?" I'd probably say, "How much money do you want?" And so with this being said, try the experiment yourself. Get an old t-shirt and then get a microfiber cloth, spray a bit of detergent on the mess, and then do a little bit of a wax on, wax off exercise of one cloth in each hand, and I'm pretty confident that you yourself will notice a bit of a difference. Now, I personally recently switched from washing my car with a traditional car washing sponge to a microfiber hand mitt, and I noticed a difference. Hand on my heart, it was so much easier just to get all the dust and all the dirt and grime off my car's surface. And so with this microfiber cloth and all this incredible technology, is it all too good to be true, and are there any downsides that we need to be aware of? Well, actually there is. Just with any bit of great technology, usually they do have some weaknesses that we need to be very mindful of in order to not damage the equipment. And so now we'll move on to the next section, how to take proper care of a microfiber cloth. And so these cloths are pretty hardy, but they do have 3 unexpected weaknesses that we need to be aware of. And so the first mistake to avoid is not to wash it with hot water. When washing these microfiber cloths in the washing machine, make sure that you set it to warm. Not cold, because cold will not enable the fibers to open up and then release all the dirt that just captured. So you do have to put it on the warm setting so the fibers open up a little bit and release all the dirt that they've captured in the washing cycle. And you do not set it to hot, because this will then get it so hot that the microfiber little threads will then actually melt together. And then once they're melted together, you can still use it as a cleaning rag, but it'll be no more effective than an old t-shirt. And so with that, when you put it in the washing machine, make sure you set it to warm. Not hot, not cold, warm. And now that gets us to mistake number 2, mixing your washing loads. So with microfiber cloths, it is essential that you do not put it into the washing machine along with your clothes or your towels. And the reason being for this is that some of the cotton fibers from your other bits of clothing would actually come off your normal clothing in the machine wash, but then actually embed in the microfiber cloth at levels that are so small you can't even see, and it'll make your microfiber cloth slightly less effective. Now, if you do this once or twice, your cloth will still work, but every time you do this, your microfiber cloths will be becoming less and less and less and less effective over time. And so if you want to keep your microfiber cloths in ideal pristine condition, have washing machine loads dedicated purely to microfiber cloths. Some professional car detailers even take this advice a step further and they actually have separate loads for different types of microfiber cloths for depending on what types of stains are used to clean. So for example, there might be one load for microfiber cloths that use an acidic based cleaner, then there'll be another load for cloths that will use to clean grease and things with a detergent based cleaner, and then they'll have another load for materials that were used to apply sealants or waxes or things like that. And although this is the best practice, I appreciate it's not really realistic for the domestic world. And it's always good to be aware of the good practices. I mean, as an example of another good practice, if you happen to be enjoying a YouTube video, it's just a polite courtesy just to leave a like and subscribe, whereas if you're not liking it, you're not expected to do that. I kind of hope you get the hint that I was trying to drop there. And I'm also hoping that you like this video. And before I make this too awkward, I'll move on to mistake number 3, and that is to expose the microfiber cloth to either bleach, wax, sealant, or fabric softener. So all of these chemicals either clog up or destroy the microfiber threads, and unfortunately there'll be nothing you can do to restore a cloth to get back to its former glory. Once the cloth is ruined, it is ruined forever. And each of these chemicals do a different thing to the microfiber cloths. As an example, bleach actually eats away at the material itself, whereas wax, sealant, or fabric softener actually kind of get in amongst the threads, but then sort of clog up, and then it's like a very thin layer of film that sort of prevents the fibers from doing its job. And so with that being said, what kind of cleaning chemical can you actually use in partnership with a microfiber cloth? Well, the majority of them are fine. You can basically use all the common all-purpose cleaners, you can use detergents, and funnily enough, you can even use it with vinegar without doing any damage to the cloth itself. Let's just say that you've come across a cloth and you're not really sure of its history, or a friend or family member's used it and you're not really sure if it's still in good working condition. How do you tell if it's ruined? Well, if it still has a bit of an icky feel to it and you can still sort of lightly feel the static electricity and it feels a little bit awkward to touch, well then you know the cloth is still functional and it's still great. But if it feels no different than an old t-shirt, well then you have your answer. It's no better than an old t-shirt. And so what detergent can you use? Well, there is actually a specially designed microfiber washing detergent that you can buy from all major car care and hardware retail outlets. But if you're too cheap to buy this special detergent, you can just use a tiny bit of car shampoo or a tiny bit of all-purpose cleaner, and that would probably be your next best option. Now we're on to part 3, and what are all the different types of microfiber cloth and what ones are the best to use for what types of mess that you're trying to clean. So the first one I'll go into will just be the terry cloth or the general purpose microfiber cloth. And when you go into the hardware shops or auto care shops, you'll find that these come in very large packs. And you'll find that there's a large variety of prices for them as well. And so the big point of difference with the prices between the different packs is basically how much of this microfiber goodness is condensed into this. And so what you want to be looking for is grams per square meter. And so generally speaking, these are about 250, and that is more than enough to get the job done. But you can find some very effective ones that go up to say 350 grams per square meter, and they're far more absorbent and have a bit more static electricity and basically have the exact same effect as this, except a little bit more. But unfortunately they are a little bit more expensive, so it's one of those cases where you do get what you pay for. And in some cases you may be able to find packs that are just ridiculously cheap, but they might only be 100 grams per square meter. Well, those ones probably do take that principle a little bit too far and they're not quite as effective. And with that, now we'll move on to another really good quality product, and this is a waffle weave microfiber. Waffle weave. And so this is much more absorbent than a traditional microfiber cloth. And on an individual basis, they are far more expensive as well. Now these are ideal for glass and kitchenware. Alright, so the next type of microfiber cloth that you may come across with is a chenille cloth. And they usually come in the form of a hand mitt. And you can sort of tell them apart from other cloths because they have the little dangly fingers that are coming out of them. And so these are ideal for cleaning things that you're paranoid about scratching. So the best, most common example of that being your car. As with a normal microfiber cloth, it may pick up the particle, but then the particle still be in the surface of the cloth and then scratching future parts of the surface as you're wiping along. Whereas this actually sort of grabs the tiny particles, but then sort of it gets in below the fingers, and then the other fingers are still sort of there picking up other bits without the old bits of particles remaining behind to scratch your vehicle. So these are a great tool for washing your car, and ever since discovering these, I've never gone back to sponges. They're so much better. And they're pretty much equally as absorbent as a sponge as well, so you're basically getting all of the pros and none of the cons. And next we'll move on to the suede cloths. And if you wear glasses, chances are is that you've probably received a free one of these that just lives in your glasses case and you clean your glasses with. And this feels very different to other cloths, because whereas the other cloths are primarily designed to draw things into it, with the secondary objective being not to scratch anything, this one has a primary objective not to scratch anything that you're cleaning it with. It is an ideal tool for cleaning your glasses, your phone screen, your laptop screen, any monitor screens, and also glass. And but hang on, didn't I say that this is also ideal for glass? Well, they are both effective tools for cleaning glass, they just go about it in a slightly different way. With that now gets us to the last type of microfiber cloth that you may come across, and that is an applicator. And this isn't so much common in the house cleaning industry, but more in the car cleaning industry. And so the purpose of this one isn't so much to actually absorb or take in a cleaning chemical or dirt or grime or dust, but it's actually more to actually put it onto a surface. Alrighty, so now I'll start winding up this video by talking about the best practice for getting the most use out of these cloths. And now for a bit of a microfiber cleaning trick that is very common sense once it's pointed out, but unless it's pointed out to you, no one really actually does this. And so when you're cleaning one of these, you always want to make sure you're using a clean side. And so with that, you'd think you'd run out of cloth pretty quickly, and to a degree that's true. But you can minimize the amount of rags that you go through by doing a simple trick where you just fold it in half, fold it in half. To cut a long story short, you'll have 8 surfaces that you'll be able to clean with before you have to sort of discard the rag and put it in the washing machine. And so that's pretty much everything I have to say about microfiber cloths. If you feel like that I've left anything out, or if you found this information useful, please tell me in the comments, and I might make a follow-up video about this as I get more and more into the world of microfiber cloths, because it's a bit of a weird thing to get into, but I kind of find this stuff really interesting. I know that's weird, but hey, someone's got to be into this stuff, right?